Hey everyone, Genome here, coming at you with a quick rundown of my biggest MSF mistakes, at least as far as characters go, and more specifically the resources I put into them. So you'll see before you a veritable who's who of who not to spend resources on nowadays, and there's obviously a theme up there too that you might find a little bit interesting. I left one of the characters off of here that would kind of tie in the rest of this crew, but let's go over this real fast and tell you why each of these was a real mistake, and yeah, just use it as a cautionary tale. So first on the list is the highest on here, and that's Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider was always a character I always loved in the comics. When he first came out, I thought his kit was amazing, and admittedly, what he does is cool and very thematic. Unfortunately, it's a mechanic that it sounds good on paper, but in practice it's bad. So basically he's the linchpin behind the supernatural team. He's a lot like Graviton, and he's kind of a mini legendary character, right? And what he does is strong, specifically when characters on your team die. He starts with his retaliation, Spirit of Vengeance, right? It hits like a truck, it hits hard. Basically, everything he does that's good is tied in with your characters dying. The only problem is that's an awful mechanic. It should have been something more along the lines of when your character's attacked, and maybe he has 50% chance to do the attack or whatever. Because regardless of him doing this counterattack, if your characters are dying off, he can't solo whole teams by himself. He's no Kestrel Silver Surfer, you know. So just it sounds cool on paper, it's very thematic for him, but really his damage is pretty subpar outside of that passive attack and his penance stare, and his penance stare is not going off every turn unless once again your people are dying, in which case he's not going to be able to solo the other team. It doesn't work well around. He's not a good standalone character. He is quite tanky, and I actually used him I think in my second run of DD2, so he can take some hits. He's not that good. And I put a lot into him. I like the character. And what more can I say? He's just good. Loki is another one. I think he was on my B team for Dark Dimension 2, my first run through there. But he also was one of my biggest mistakes ever as far as T4s go. And it's like, why did I T4 his basic? It's like to get 10% chance of evade. So bad. I don't know if I just misclicked it or what, but whatever the case may be, he does not need this much resources, or this many resources, excuse me. T12 is as far as I take this guy, because everything you need him to do is in his, usually almost always in his special, and if he lives even longer, his ultimate's alright, gives you some more survivability, but really, it's all about his special, and he doesn't need any of his other stuff, and he doesn't need this much gearing to do that effectively. Another interesting thing about Loki is both he and Mordo, you could probably make the case for building him up to at least tier 12 for the Phoenix unlock. So I'll just go ahead and go to Mordo to just talk about it. Basically the same character here, right? You know, they do vastly different things. Yes, both of these guys are Villain Mystic controllers, and you can use them for the Phoenix unlock. But of the two, at the time, the only really easy one to farm was Mordo, but Loki's a little bit further down. Or should I say further up as far as difficulty goes, but Mordo being in the arena store, he was a pretty easy farm, so I had him up pretty high stash early. Yeah, I used him once again on my B squad for Dark Dimension 2, which explains why he has tier 13 on him, but it's all been wasted. It's just not, he's just not a good character. His damage is negative. He does no damage whatsoever. The only thing he really does well, or should I say good, is when you max his special out, right? And then you get stun on command. Some people say the blind is better. I think most prevailing thought nowadays is the stun is just better overall. I mean, it looks good for his basic to put 1 to 2 negative effects, but he's not doing any damage, and he's just, I know he's a controller, he's not supposed to do it, but his control, I don't know, it's just not good enough. And really the only time his passive is good is on supernatural teams. And honestly, versus the AI, heal block is not as like devastating as it is against you, usually, because they just have tons more characters to throw at you. So just not a good character, and he does not need this much resource investment. one of the overlying themes here, and let's go ahead and get to the last guy who's basically going the overlying theme, is Doctor Strange. I happened to pull 5 reds on this guy ages ago, and since he was going with Supernatural, I worked on him some, but he's only tier 12, so I didn't put too much into him, but I did dump a T4 into him, and he's just not used anywhere. At least Loki will see some fringe use in like war and stuff, but really the only places you can use a couple of these guys are in war, offense on Supernatural, and I really tried to build my Supernatural team up. I think they're around 400k or so. Pretty strong. For a little while they were pretty decent in war, but they're just no good, man. I barely even use the regular team in war anymore. I thought about putting Elsa on this list too, but I've actually used her like in a blaster challenge and a few things like that, and she's only tier 12, so it wasn't that much. But yeah, Supernatural just isn't really good in any of the game modes, so I just don't really recommend putting anything into any of the Supernatural characters, to be honest with you. You know, Ghost Rider, like I said, seemed like a pretty strong character when he's released, but you know, I don't use him anywhere. I haven't used him anywhere in probably a year or more, and I can't remember. Oh, I think I used him in the City Knows of DD3 for a while until I got some more symbiotes in there, but he was already like at tier 14 anyway, because I thought this character's gonna be great, Supernatural's gonna be really good, and they haven't got any a better 5th character yet, like I hoped they would. So yeah, those Mystic characters are just bad. Another one, I actually made a video about this guy recently, and Star-Lord is not a guy you need to put a bunch of gear into, and I don't even recommend him as a guy to unlock really anymore. Basically, his most valuable thing now is for pairing with Gamora until you get some more of the Infinity Watch. I mean, but even that's kind of, I'd rather put Kestrel in his spot, but he's just not needed. I dipped him through my first run of DD2, and he was quite good there, because you want to be feeding Minerva extra energy at every given opportunity so she can ult more. That was the strat at the time. And yeah, where else I don't use him anywhere else. Once you hit like U7, you can't use Star-Lord anymore. He's just too squishy. So yeah, I don't recommend new players go for him at all. I mean, yeah, if you get some random unlock, or because you pulled him out, or other character, or Guardians characters out of shards with it, or orbs, excuse me. I'm getting tongue-tied here. That's fine. It's not going to hurt you, but I surely don't recommend like going out your way to go get him. Like spending raid credits on Rocket when you have other things to buy that are much more important than him. Yeah, Star-Lord, but he shares another commonality with someone else on this list, and that is Ghost Rider. I'm fairly positive I stuck the 5th red star on both of these guys out of the store. Yeah, boy, I like to have those credits back, let me tell you. So, but it's not going to happen. So yeah, bad stuff. And the last one, I'm going to do a video on these two guys, but Wasp is not too terrible because I only got her to 12, but even her taking that high is pretty unnecessary. I did used to run her in a tech AoE team I had when I first started playing. My first arena team was like Crossbones, Antman, Wasp, Punisher. He didn't really fit anything but the AoE portion of that, and Quake. Yeah, but I mean, it got me through those waves and waves and waves of defenders, and I got really used to that. But yeah, so Wasp is not the biggest problem here, but really, you don't need to get her this high at all. She's absolutely awful. I'll do the video on her and Ant-Man later. And Ant-Man, I took this guy in DD2 my first time.
That is why you fail.
For the longest time, I don't know why, I think I had myself convinced that he was a decent character, mostly because his kit seems okay, but he's not. He's bargain. I mean, you get minions hit way harder than he does. His kit doesn't really do that much in the grand scheme. Yes, 2-turn ability block is very sweet, but he's so slow and squishy. He's got innate dodge, but it almost never goes off for you. Don't stick tier 13 on this guy. He doesn't need it. You're not going to use him anywhere. His one saving grace, actually compared to basically anyone else on this list, is he is a Blitz store character, so you can get him cheap. But I mean, it's nice because he does unlock pretty good legendary right now. But so using those raid or those Blitz credits is not so bad on him. But he's bad. He's bad. So don't stick the gear in it. I mean, you know, there's plenty of other characters out there I'd like to get some of my materials back, but these are some of the worst ones, especially the ones you got, you know, tier 13 and above on, because, you know, right now I'm still trying to get through DD4. I don't have all the gear I need, and it's like some of that's hang-ups on 13s, you know, and you know, whether these guys, it would have helped to not use it on these guys, who's to say? I am in the cosmic section, so probably so, but there you go. It's a cautionary tale. Like, no one you see on the screen are you really going to use anywhere with any regularity outside of maybe war, Blitz. I don't count Blitz, but really out of war. Just another quick rundown. Like I said, Loki and Mordo, you do use them for two of the better options, actually, for the Black Bolt unlock. Or, excuse me, Black Bolt. The Phoenix unlock. But outside of that, no real use. Loki does have a lot more incidental use than Mordo does. And Antman and Wasp are going to be used for, I don't know, another semi-important legendary out there. But the key to that unlock is the fact that you don't need a high Antman and Wasp. You just dump all of your resources into making a high Ghost, who has pretty high use in things like Dark Dimension. So, yeah, I mean, Jubilee's great and all, but you don't need a high Antman or Wasp, other than their star levels, to do that. So, crank their stars up, don't put much gear into them, and call it a day. So anyway, hopefully this is this warning tale is somewhat interesting. Look at my bad mistakes and don't emulate them, people. And yeah, let me know about some of your best mistakes, or greatest regrets, should I say, in MSF. And until next time, this is Genome, out.